Sailboat owners. These 7 simple mistakes have sunk thousands of boats, and chances are you're making at least one right now. Boat US marine insurance data shows that roughly 4 out of every 5 boat sinkings happen while the vessel sits safely tied up at the dock, not battling storms at sea. Let me put this in perspective. The US Coast Guard reports that sailboat owners file insurance claims worth over $20 million annually just for sinking incidents. The average insurance claim for boat sinking? Over $20,000. But here's the kicker that Boat US data reveals. Most of these disasters could have been prevented by avoiding 7 fundamental mistakes that even experienced sailors make repeatedly. Before we get into these 7 costly errors, let's talk about how fast things can go wrong. A 5-centimeter hole below the waterline pours 300 liters of water into your boat every minute. Double that hole size to 10 centimeters, and you're looking at 1,100 liters per minute. Enough to sink a 30-foot yacht in just 12 minutes. That's barely enough time to grab a cup of coffee, let alone mount an effective response. The first mistake catches even the most seasoned sailors off guard: neglecting through-hull fittings and seacocks. Aged underwater hoses and fittings are the single most common cause of sailboat sinkings. We're talking about corroded fittings, old hoses, rusty hose clamps, leaking stuffing boxes, and split bellows. Here's what happens when through-hull fittings fail. That black reinforced hose connecting your through-hull to your Groco bronze seacock looks fine from the outside. But after 5 to 7 years of constant immersion in saltwater environments, from the Chesapeake Bay to the Pacific Northwest, the inner layers start breaking down. One day, maybe while you're enjoying a quiet dinner ashore, that hose splits. Water rushes in at hundreds of liters per minute. Your bilge pump can't keep up. By morning, you're looking at a mast poking up through the water where your boat used to be. The really insidious part? Plastic through-hulls and 4-spar Marilon fittings turn brittle from UV exposure and eventually crack. I've personally inspected 3 boats in Fort Lauderdale, where owners religiously maintained their engines and electronics, but never once checked their through-hulls in 5 years. It's like maintaining your car's paint job while ignoring the brakes. Prevention requires discipline and following ISO 9093 seacock standards. Before every boating season, make sure hoses fit snugly and are double-clamped where possible. Replace any hose showing signs of age: rot, stiffness, bulges, leaks, or cracking. A single seacock replacement costs $200 to $500 at West Marine. But that's nothing compared to a total loss. Those stainless steel clamps corrode from the bottom where you can't see it, so inspect them carefully. And make sure your seacocks actually operate smoothly. You'd be amazed how many boat owners discover their seacocks are seized shut only when they desperately need to close them in an emergency. The second mistake drives marine surveyors absolutely crazy. For some inexplicable reason, sailboat builders and owners think one bilge pump is sufficient, regardless of boat size. The vast majority of 40-foot sailboats have exactly one bilge pump. That's like having one life jacket for a family of 4. Here's the brutal reality. When boats sink, the pump usually fails before the boat goes down. Why? Because bilges get dirty. Float switches stick in the up position, burning out the pump or draining the battery. Switches come loose and lay on their side, causing the pump to run continuously until it destroys itself or kills your electrical system. But here's the really amateur mistake that even expensive yacht builders make: wiring the bilge pumps to shut off when you turn off the main power. Picture this scenario I've seen happen 3 times. You're away for a week. A hose fails. Water starts entering. The bilge pump kicks in and runs continuously, fighting the incoming water. Eventually, it drains your batteries. Once the batteries die, the pump stops. Game over. Remember what Boat US Technical Director Bob Adrian says: bilge pumps aren't there to save your boat from serious flooding. Their job is removing nuisance water and buying you precious time to fix whatever's leaking. That's it. Don't expect miracles from a 12-volt pump when you've got a major breach. Follow ABYCH 22 standards for proper bilge pump installation with high water alarms. The third mistake is so simple, it's almost embarrassing. Forgetting the drain plug. This is, without question, the #1 all-time most common way to sink your boat. And before you think you're too smart for this, let me tell you something. Every experienced boater has either done this themselves or watched someone else do it. Just in 2024, on Lake Conroe in Texas, 11 people had to be rescued from a sinking boat because nobody remembered to insert the drain plug before launching. Picture that embarrassment. 11 people watching their day on the water turn into a Coast Guard rescue operation because of a $3 piece of rubber. The physics are unforgiving. Without that drain plug, water enters through the transom drain at a rate that quickly overwhelms any bilge pump. The boat settles stern first, water pours over the transom, and suddenly you're swimming. The solution? Tie your drain plug to your boat keys. It's that simple. You can't start your engine without thinking about that drain plug. Some people tie it to the trailer winch handle. Others put a bright note on their steering wheel. Whatever system you choose, make it foolproof. Mistake number 4 happens when you walk away from your boat. Leaving seacocks open when you're not aboard. About 70% of sinkings occur while boats are alongside at the dock. Think about that. Your boat is supposedly safe, tied up snugly in its slip. And that's when disaster strikes most often. The correct procedure is to close all through hulls when you're not using the boat. All of them. Some sailors think they only need to close incoming seacocks and can leave outgoing ones open. Water doesn't care about your intentions. It's going in regardless of whether that hole was designed for intake or discharge. Every single through hull is a hole in your boat. All it takes is one clamp failure or hose split to sink your pride and joy. Close everything every time you leave the boat. There's an added benefit. Keeping your seacocks moving prevents them from seizing up. Seacocks that sit unused for months often freeze in place. When you really need to close them in an emergency, they won't budge. The fifth mistake involves something as mundane as autumn leaves, clogged scuppers, and cockpit drains. This kills boats during heavy rain, especially in fall when leaves accumulate everywhere. When scuppers clog with debris, water backs up and finds creative ways into your bilge. Here's a real example from Boat US files. An owner said his cockpit always drained perfectly for years. Then, during a heavy spring downpour, everything went wrong. Rain dumped gallons into the cockpit. The water couldn't drain overboard because leaves blocked the scuppers. Instead, the rainwater drained into the bilge through a deteriorated hose nobody knew was failing. The boat had no working bilge pump. The excess water caused the boat to settle lower, submerging through hulls and accelerating the sinking. The lesson? Keep your boat clean, not just for appearances, but for survival. Check those scuppers regularly. Make sure cockpit drains actually drain overboard, not into your bilge. And keep your bilge pump functional. The sixth mistake ventures into truly scary territory: keel bolt neglect and grounding damage. Recent years have delivered several wake-up calls that losing your keel happens more often than anyone wants to admit. Consider the tragedy of Cheeky Rafiki in May 2014. This Beneteau 40.7 lost its keel during a transatlantic delivery voyage, killing 4 sailors. The Crown Prosecution Service later determined the yacht wasn't seaworthy for ocean passage because several keel bolts were corroded or broken even before the voyage began. Many had been broken for months. The yacht was fundamentally unsound before it ever left port. The underlying problem with modern keels is that they've evolved from integral parts of a vessel's structure into thin, heavy appendages connected as highly stressed cantilevers. Looking at many fin keels today raises the question not of why keels fall off, but how they manage to stay connected at all. Ted Osborne of the Cruising Association put it perfectly. "I have long thought that hanging a huge lump of iron from a yacht hull, holding it on only with a few steel nuts and bolts, and letting it swing around in a rough sea was just asking for trouble." Since 1984, the International Sailing Federation has documented 72 keel failure incidents, resulting in 24 deaths. These aren't just racing boats pushing extreme limits. Regular cruising boats lose keels too, often after seemingly minor groundings that owners dismiss as inconsequential. Which brings us to mistake number 7, ignoring grounding damage. Even light groundings on sand in areas like the Great Lakes can cause serious structural damage. Sand underwater hits like concrete, especially when you factor in tidal streams, wave action, and angle of impact. Many sailors are lulled into false security after soft groundings. They back off, check for obvious leaks, and continue sailing, unaware they're now operating a compromised vessel. Sometimes grounding damage is subtle, but no less dangerous. Skippers sail for months with their boats in precarious condition because they don't know what structural damage to look for. In hard groundings on rocky bottoms or coral reefs, the initial impact and subsequent pounding can dislodge keels, open seams, or fracture hulls. The smart move for significant grounding is staying put until professional help arrives. Freeing a damaged boat could easily result in sinking once you reach deeper water. The financial reality of these 7 mistakes is sobering. When boats sink, even briefly, repair costs typically run about 40% of the vessel's value. For a $100,000 boat, you're looking at $40,000 in repairs, assuming the boat can be saved at all. Recent events like the Bayesian superyacht disaster on August 19, 2024, remind us that even the most expensive, supposedly sophisticated vessels aren't immune to fundamental mistakes. That 56-meter Perini Navi yacht sank in 16 minutes, killing 7 people, including owner Mike Lynch. While investigations continue, the incident underscores that money can't buy immunity from poor seamanship or design flaws. Here's your prevention checklist. Check all through hull fittings annually and replace hoses every 5 to 7 years. Install multiple bilge pumps with high water alarms following ABYCH 22 standards, and make sure they can operate even when main power is off. Never ever your drain plug. Tie a spare to your keys. Close all seacocks when leaving your boat unattended, no exceptions. Keep scuppers and drains clear of debris year-round. Have keel bolts professionally inspected, especially after any grounding, no matter how minor it seemed. And after any grounding, get a professional survey even if damage isn't obvious. The ocean doesn't care about your experience level, your boat's price tag, or your sailing credentials. It only cares about physics and preparation. These 7 mistakes have claimed thousands of boats and dozens of lives. Don't let your boat be next. The difference between a long, safe sailing career and becoming another insurance statistic often comes down to attention to these fundamentals. Your boat wants to stay afloat. That's how boats were designed. Your job as captain is simply not to give it reasons to sink. Master these 7 areas, and you'll join the ranks of sailors who enjoy decades on the water without ever filing a sinking claim. The choice is yours.